Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI-based trading workshop 2024. And today we will have two sessions as a part of this workshop. Uh, First one is panel discussion that is on trading in the age of AI, and the second one is ChatGPT and algo trading. Now, the objective of this workshop is to discuss and learn about artificial intelligence, which is constantly evolving the landscape of financial markets, to identify also some of the common challenges that are faced and opportunities that can help us stay ahead of the curve. All right, so for the first session of the workshop, that is a panel discussion on trading in the age of AI, how to stay ahead. We are joined by industry experts and practitioners from Canada, Puerto Rico, India, and the United States. And to start off with the proceedings, I would like to introduce moderator of this panel discussion, Nitesh Khandelwal. Many of you already know him. Nitesh is the co-founder of two ventures in the domain of algo trading, iRage and QuantInsti. Now, while iRage is one of the leading HFT firms in India, where it does about a million trades every day for its own proprietary trading capital, it is also the clearing and trading members of exchanges in India. At QuantInsti, he leads the various initiatives of bringing the best of learning and financial technology of algo trading to the individuals and various financial institutions that QuantInsti caters to. So, hey, Nitesh, I guess you can start and the stage is yours.
Thank you so
I
much,
just
Nitesh.
uh, I just start the slide so here. So
Yeah, sure.
if
Great.
the audience
Thank
can
you
see.
so much. Thank you so much, Nitesh, for the kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome you all to this exciting panel discussion on trading in the age of AI. This is really an honor for me to have so many industry experts, so many people that we really look up to being on this panel with us, and people who have really been there, done that, doing that, right, on this domain. So I'm really excited to welcome all my fellow panelists, starting with Bert Mouler. Bert Mouler is the CEO and co-founder of Profluent Trading Group. He's based out of Puerto Rico, and they have been trading, I think, whatever. I think it might be right to say whatever moves, but but I think largely into the so largely in the on CME and cryptos. I think they are doing almost $500 million to $1 billion of volume every day, which is huge, which is massive. And I think the kind of strategies, the quantitative methods that you have been deploying, that's amazing. We're glad that you are also one of the placement partners at QuantInsti. So we have seen your processes and other things. It's really gladdening. But welcome to this panel. Thank you for taking us. And I have Dr. Ernest Chan, who is it would be a underestimation to say that he has been the guiding light for QuantInsti. He has been with us as the advisory board member, and he has been guiding us for more than a decade, and not just as advisory board member, but also the faculty, author, and so many things where he has contributed in our journey. And Dr. Chan, I'm really, really thankful to you for that. And of course, Dr. Chan is someone who started AI more than most of the people who are doing AI probably were in their pre-teenagers, I guess. I would guess. So right after your PhD at Cornell, I think you had joined with IBM Watson, where you were part of the AI group there. Then you were also working on the AI initiatives at Morgan Stanley later on, and then so many places where you have provided value to so many different trading firms, and of course your own asset management firm, and of course I think your book, the first book was published more than 15 years ago, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So, so that's amazing. That's almost when we started with our venture, and I think I remember reading your book. So it was one of the inspirations for us to start as well. So welcome, Dr. Chan, on this panel. Also have Mark Sison. So Mark has been working as a VIP trading active trader specialist at Fidelity International, and he has been quite interesting in terms of the kind of audience that he has to cater to, the active traders, especially for the options trading and quantitative trading and other methods. So it would be really heartening to see your suggestions, your ideas, and your perspective, Mark, in this session. And you also happen to be a PAT alumni, so yeah, so we are proud to have you here. Thank you so much for joining in, Mark. Then we have Stefan Jansen. Stefan has as someone who has got a massive mix of both what you work in the data science and AI and on the financial market side, the trading aspects of it. His book, the first book that was released, I think almost 4 or 5 years back. I think first book was much before that, but the one that is really, I think, took everyone by with amazement, machine learning for trading. Of I think that for financial markets, that's been something incredible. Stefan is the CEO and co-founder of Applied AI, and he happens to actually provide consulting as well as do a lot of hands-on assistance for data-driven techniques for many of the Fortune 500 companies, and of course for the trading houses, the proprietary trading houses, the institution, all of that. So we are really glad to have you here, Stefan. Thank you so much for joining in. Great. So yeah. So hello, big hello to everyone again, to all of you who have joined us. Thank you for taking our time. Much appreciated. Now, what we have really been seeing in the world of trading, financial markets, the evolution that has been happening has been massive. We, in a very short period of few hundred years, what we have seen is that we have moved on from barter trading system to the systems where we're trading in the pit, to the systems. Then now we are talking about just last 50 years probably, to the electronic trading, to more towards algorithmic trading, and now we are venturing into the age of AI and machine learning for trading. It's quite interesting times, because if you think, it has evolved from the era where people were trading, then to an era where machines were helping people to trade, then to an era where people were using machines to trade, right? Machines were helping people to trade, and now to an era where machines are helping machines to trade, right? So it's quite interesting journey how it has been happening, and it is not never been more important to discuss than today about the impact that it is making on the algorithmic, on the financial markets overall, and of course into the algorithmic trading as well. So I'll start with you, Bert. How do you think, what is the biggest thing that you think has been the biggest impact of the machine learning that you have been seeing in the financial markets today?
What do you mean? You don't have to do your job anymore. I mean, it depends, right? It depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about stuff that came before GPT, obviously, you know, it allows you to take a look at presumably more stuff than you would be able to do without it, if you do it correctly, of course. And you know, of course, figure out different nonlinearities that you wouldn't be able to potentially see, let's say, with the basic like exploratory data analysis or just with your eyes. And then post GPT, I think that a lot of trading, a lot of stuff that we do is kind of, there'll be a trade for 3 months. I think this is what prop shop should be doing, right? And you have to develop it very quick. And it's not going to be, it's not going to be the spreader that you're using for 10 years, right? It's a quick thing, and it requires probably some new technology that you haven't worked with before. But if you can get it done quick, even though there's only 2 months left, right? You can get it done in a month, right? That you're still like 200% of P&L in there. So it really shortens the development cycle. I mean, I know a lot of people think, if you're, obviously if you're doing low level C++, it's not going to help you a lot, right? But if you're trying to get, a new venue up really fast to do a trade, right? Or, some sort of, crypto is a great example, right? There's always new protocols, new things like popping up, throw the docs on the GPT, get your API working. So that's been pretty, pretty incredible for us.
Sure, I think the time to market has really reduced drastically, especially with the generative AI that has been coming to the center stage. I think it's marvelous how it has shortened the development cycles. Stefan, what do you think? Sorry,
you just cut out. Was that you or me? Yeah, everyone
Yeah,
heard me?
it was just a few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of different things going on, right? Because I would differentiate between sort of algorithmic trading per se, which is more about more machines being deployed and trading sort of processes being automated, latency going down, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean that machine learning is at play, right? It could be rules-based system and what have you. So I think the sort of deployment of machines that automate and accelerate trading processes, that certainly has been increasing. More shops have more modern sort of infrastructure, and the human element in that process is receding to some extent. When it comes to the development of the strategies themselves, like which rules are we actually going to use, I think there has been quite an evolution in how machine learning is used in finance, from more like a initial excitement, kitchen sink approach. Oh no, we have these models that can, digest high dimensional data, which means we can just throw anything at them, and they will surely come up with something that is going to predict returns just really, really well. And lo and behold, it does so in the past, and but in the future it doesn't really work so well. So I think there has been quite a bit of learning and simplification going on, which is kind of separate from the ChatGPT dynamic, because I think as Bert mentioned, the ChatGPT impact is not necessarily directly on the immediate sort of trading decisions, right? It's not like you're going to wake up in the morning and say, hey, ChatGPT, what should I buy or what should I sell? And then you go back to play golf. But everything around the process, gets more productive. Be that the software, you guys know that, right? I mean, software development gets better. Research in particular gets more productive and faster. So I think personally that the folks that benefit the most from ChatGPT right now are all the fundamental analysts, right? That need to read a lot and summarize a lot. Because summarization and maybe writing code are probably the two components or products of ChatGPT that are most useful and impactful, specifically on this industry. So I think that there has been an ongoing learning process when it comes more narrowly to machine learning, to design the models that you use and build models that start to incorporate more domain knowledge of how finance actually works, right? You see more of a trend to use models that compress data, extract factors, etc., rather than just try to kind of use everything under the sun, including alternative data and the like, to predict returns better. Which really exposes the thing that you heard a lot about causal machine learning, how important it is to still understand causality, right? Which means that in a way you have a more powerful tool to kind of translate your signals into predictions, at least in principle, but you still have to come up with some idea on what useful signals would actually be. And that in and by itself, machine learning is not really going to solve for you by itself. It's going to help in the process if you know how to use it, but there is a very significant human component still. So I would, as I said, initially separate between generally the idea better infrastructure, better machines that accelerate automated trading or make it more prevalent, and then you have machine learning more narrowly as kind of applied to data to help with prioritizing which assets to trade or size positions. And then you have ChatGPT as something that impacts all sorts of processes across the sort of literally the business of running an investment house, which includes technology and the like.
Yeah, that's very well put. I think so what summarizes that software development and NLP that you think would be the most the areas which are seeing a lot of impact, a lot of positive aspects that are being utilized there. And of course, ChatGPT or generative AI is probably not going to give you the design of the factory from scratch. So that needs to come from you, at least the base one, and then it can refine and then probably even build up the factory all by itself. So, so something on the lines of that for the trading strategies, right? So the ideas needs to come from you. So.
Like the one thing I would add only is that, of course, when it comes to digesting news, the improved language processing is going to help dramatically, right? So there's one area of data where you have now a much better chance to incorporate this more quickly, right? So
yeah, absolutely, sure. So, Dr. Chan, what do you think would be the biggest impact that you, in your opinion, you have been seeing in the financial markets, especially on the financial markets trading aspects for the AI and machine learning?
Yeah, I largely agree with the previous two speakers. I think the at this particular point, the biggest practical impact of machine learning is really to improve the boring stuff of trading, not the exciting stuff. The boring stuff, for example, risk management. It's much more effective in telling us whether a trade we should do a trade than to suggest a new trade. We call that corrective AI. So the analogy I like to draw is between a fully self-driving car versus assisted driving, right? So fully autonomous vehicles, you don't see too many of them on the street as yet. Maybe in San Francisco or Arizona, very limited place. Certainly you don't find that on the streets of New York at the moment. And that is after, I don't know, 10 billion, $100 billion investment globally on developing that technology, and it hasn't worked. Well, trading and in the financial market is harder than self-driving car from a lot of experts. It is harder. So, I don't imagine that it will succeed anytime soon just by an autonomous agent being able to adapt to the market and trade successfully. But, assisted driving technology is very mature. Hardly any of us would have a car that doesn't have like a lane change detection or collision avoidance system or this and that. Every cheap car that you can buy on in the market already have that, and it's very effective. I probably won't be speaking here today if not for one of these technologies, right? So and similarly in trading, what we call corrective AI, where the computer tell you, hey, the probability that your trade is going to be just to be profitable is just going to be 45%, and maybe I shouldn't trade today. That is a very effective way we find of using machine learning. And the reason for that is that that is already something that a human can do semi well. It is hard to except for some brilliant traders, it's hard to say that, well, if I enter into a trade this minute and exit 5 minutes later, this is it's going to be highly likely to be profitable. But it is very possible to make a judgment to say that, well, a mean reverting strategy is more probable to be profitable when the volatility is constant, whereas a momentum strategy is more profitable when the volatility is high. And that kind of judgment, that kind of wisdom that a lot of human traders have and are quite effective. It's not to say that this minute this trade will be successful. It's just that this period of time, this market regime is not favorable to this type of strategy. That kind of judgment human being can make pretty well. A lot of good traders can make pretty well. And similarly, the machine learning system are able to learn that kind of wisdom. And so oftentimes we expect machines to do better than we can, but and maybe sometimes it can, but you can see that it is often more successful for the machine to learn to do what we human can already do, except more consistently and without getting tired. And that corrective AI is that kind of use case. And the other boring use case is asset allocation. And this is so boring that most traders say, oh, don't talk about portfolio optimization. I only have 3 strategies. Well, optimize what? So, but of course, when you have 10 strategies, it actually is a big impact on how you allocate capital across them. And for example, if you want to optimize the parameters of a trading strategy, that can also have a big impact. When you talk about parameter optimization, traditional way being the parameters being optimized on a training set and let it just get fixed and then use it forever. Well, that doesn't take into account regimes, right? So if you have a if you have a highly volatile regime, are you really going to use the same stop loss as a very quiet regime? That already intuitively doesn't make sense, and a lot of traders make these discretionary decisions on that already. They tweak the parameter under different circumstances. So that tweaking can be taken care of by machine learning more systematic way. So these are sort of the 3 use cases that we have found to be the kind of the low-hanging fruit of machine learning. Now we're back to generative AI. Actually, I'm co-authoring a book on that, how to effectively use it. What we find is that as many of our speakers found out, it's great in producing codes, right? Generative AI is really helpful in spitting out code, with the nuance that the codes are often not correct when it's spit out. So you do have to have a lot of unit tests to make sure that it's doing what you expect it to do. But the good thing is, once it passes those unit tests, you can examine, you can audit the code, and you can verify it's correct or not. Whereas the sort of the pedestrian or naive way of using generative AI being, hey, tell me if well, one example is quite shocking, right? So I just asked it to, hey, computer analyze return of this SPY over the last year, and it confidently blah 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 spit out something, and I said, wait a minute, why are you analyzing this return by multiplying the square root of 252? I said, this is like blatant error, right? So if you are not looking at the code, you would never find out this error. If you just ask it to spit out an answer, you could never tell if the answer is correct, right? You can audit just a number. Whereas if you spit out code, well, it's okay, well, I have unit tests and it passed them, and I look at the logic, it's right, and it's still more efficient than coming up with the code yourself. So I feel that definitely there's a great power in producing the first draft of code for traders, for quantitative traders. Beyond that, the problem is that it's so inconsistent. Occasionally it has brilliant flashes of insight, right? One time I asked ChatGPT to say, well, if I have a trading strategy that enter into a trade that hold for 5 days, right? Every day I enter a trade and I hold it for 5 days. What is the maximum number of positions that I could have on any one day? And it correctly said that is, maximum is 5. At which I said, oh wow, it really understands something, right? Where to get that? But other times it's like you feed it a trading paper, a complete specification of a trading strategy, and I even spoon feed a paragraph specifying exactly what you're supposed to do with the trading strategy, and it cannot write a code to backtest that. It just omits some key points. It's the inconsistency is just make it very difficult to use it in a very professional setting. So obviously there's going to be GPT 5 and 6 and 7, and eventually we'll get there, but it's not there yet. That's all I can say right now.
I think that's very true, and I think the use cases that you mentioned about corrective AI and asset allocation being boring, which is so true. It's so boring that I think it comes down to the head of desk, but often the CEO of the firm to make those decisions, and no one wants to do it. Someone has to, right? So we have seen that even at our place happening. So that's really true. And yeah, I think as it moves to the more, I think generative AI is absolutely, as you rightly said, that it's at a stage where it's good for the first draft, and there's a lot of inertia which goes into creating that. So it's good to have a first copy, first manuscript, first pseudocode, first piece of code, whatever it is. And I think then building upon it becomes a lot more easier. But it's not the final output. We are not there yet for sure. So that's very true. Dr. Chen, how about the portfolio construction? So like in PredictNow, your new venture, I think you have been doing some great work over there, and especially on the portfolio construction as well. So for someone who is managing a portfolio specifically into equities or maybe multi-asset portfolio as well, so what are the primary use cases that you would suggest would be there where machine learning or AI can be helpful?
Yes, that's another boring use case, right? So like I mentioned, and it's somewhat like an extension of optimization of trading strategy parameters, right? Except that in this case, the parameters are the asset allocation on the different strategies or the different assets in your portfolio, and those that can be many of these parameters. Like if you have a 500 strategies or 500 stocks in a portfolio, there's at least like 499 parameters that you can optimize with a constraint that they all add up to 1. And we did develop a framework called conditional portfolio optimization that uses supervised learning to predict what allocation gives you the best result. Result could be Sharpe ratio, could be max drawdown, whatever you pick as a metric. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised. And again, this is a case where I would say that a human can sort of do well, because again, a human can say that, well, right now, you have let's say a booming AI craze in the asset market, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, whoever had put an AI in their firm's names, all of a sudden, get double-digit, triple-digit return, right, in the stock. And it's easy for AI to detect that trend and say, oh, hey, we got this AI craze. Let's allocate more capital to AI-related stocks, right? So that's something that human can intuitively do. And as I said, when a human can do something, AI can do it also consistently. And so, capital allocation is actually much easier, therefore, than to tell you, exactly which AI stock to buy, instead of just saying, well, as long as it's an AI stock, put more capital in. On the other hand, let's say when the oil price is going up and the economy is booming, it's not a no-brainer to say that, well, you should put more money in Exxon, for example, or any of these oil stocks. Again, this is something that any discretionary trader would tell you that it's no-brainer, and if it's a no-brainer, well, the AI can do it also. So we find that actually it makes add value to systematize this using machine learning to predict, hey, a oil-heavy portfolio will do well when the oil price is high. Well, that's not earth-shattering. And it does that well. So that's what we find. And so we are in fact working with some very large asset allocators applying this method with them.
Cool, very nice. Thanks for sharing that. Stefan, we also have a lot of individual traders who are trading in their individual capacity, full-time, part-time, different ways. What, as per you, and you have actually your book has been extremely popular, and a lot of technocrats who are trying to learn about trading as well as applying these really amazing things into their own trading systems as well. So what do you think from the retail trader, what can be the or individual trader, how they can benefit from machine learning? Where all can they deploy these methods in their own individual trades?
Yeah, thanks. I would echo Ernest's points about machine learning is really helpful when you want to automate a task that humans have been shown to be successful at. I wanted to add that, so I actually develop machine learning solutions across different industries, right? I work like a lot of document intelligence with contracts and in marketing and what have you. And the rule actually applies everywhere. Every time I go and I work with a client and I meet someone who can roughly specify what they're already doing, which data are the main drivers of the outcome, etc., etc., then you know you're in a good spot. You will be able to build something that's A, works, and B, probably beats the baseline, you know, the current status quo. So really the same rules apply to trading, right? When we automate trading strategies, if we have somebody who has been doing something for a year or two, or you know, some period of time that's successful, and the person can specify what sort of are the main drivers of that success, right? What are the data sources? How are the data roughly processed? Is there some regularity to it? You know, if you find something like this, then you see, oh, this is something we can probably exploit better. Now that applies also to the retail traders. So I would very much caution against a machine learning first approach, you know, where just because you know how to use scikit-learn or TensorFlow and have seen some tutorials, and now you can run these things end to end, and you get some data from Yahoo Finance or somewhere else, and now you can sort of feed them into the model, and you know, on some historical data set, it delivers return predictions that show some metrics that you know satisfy you know, whatever you're looking for. That this is going to set you up for success in the market. You know, it's a little bit like machine learning is sort of the icing on the cake. And you know, if you want to only, and some people only want to eat the icing, and you might find that this is even worse for your teeth and maybe your overall shape than just the cake by itself. So I would caution like going for this exclusively. However, it's a great tool. So obviously to learn about, but then also to consider once you are familiar enough with trading and have developed some perspective on the trading process that works for you, right? So you have found your niche, your asset class, your holding period, your signals that you want to use, and you find something that somehow works, then I think is a good point, a good time to see how could I use machine learning to process that information better, persistently, you know, be a little bit more, you know, consistent, all the things that Ernest says, right? To basically use sort of the emotion-free kind of nature of a machine, you know, to find sort of what works best, and then do this consistently. And you know, as Bert said initially, don't do your job manually anymore, right? So you can, you know, the path exists, but you have to do quite a bit of pre-work yourself.
Yeah,
and you should.
That's interesting.
And you should enjoy that process, because otherwise you're also not going to end up in a happy place.
Absolutely. And I'm aware that you are working on the second edition of your book, Machine Learning for Algo Trading. So are you covering these aspects in that book, or some of these aspects?
Yes, and it's actually the third edition, because there actually has only been one book. However, the change from the first to the second was so significant for many reasons that it looks like two different books. But anyway, so yeah, so third is in the works. Going to be quite a few changes, starting with the fact that sort of free data landscape, you know, which I use quite a bit in the second edition, is just is shrinking, and you know, has many shortcomings anyway. So if you actually want to embark on this journey, you should, you know, engage, spend some money on some professional data sources. You know, prices are coming down. You don't necessarily need like deep order book kind of data and terabytes of data. There are like more accessible ways to doing this. So this is one aspect. I'm also going to start introducing some live trading aspects, you know, to kind of reinforce the point that ultimately it's not about reading books and diving deep into kind of some mathematical, fascinating aspects of this, but to actually be in the market and learn how this works in practice, right? Because that is kind of the path that will take you to learn, to see how you could actually use machine learning, right? Rather than speculate about it in a vacuum. So these are the main kind of things. Of course, it's going to be updated, and lots of things have happened. I think the applications that are being discussed on the research frontier and that are also used in practice, they have matured quite a bit from this kitchen sink approach that I mentioned earlier, you know, where you kind of try to throw everything at the model and hope it works, to something that incorporates kind of domain expertise and what we generally know about how, you know, things drive returns in a much more explicit fashion.
Very true. Nice. Thanks for sharing that. Great. And Bert, Stefan talked about
by the way, sorry, if anybody in the audience has any feedback, suggestions, or so, things that should be in the third edition, feel free to add it to the chat or so. I'll take a look after.
Yes, I think that would be lovely. You can write and reach out directly to Stefan, or you can let us know. We would be glad to pass on the feedback. So yeah, I think that's something which is extremely important. That's the single most alpha that exists for, I think, all of us, the feedback. So that's important. So great, thanks. Stefan talked about the data, huge amount of data and infrastructure and other things, which are needed. I'm sure for your professional trading, for your own trading setup, you will be using immense amount of different kinds of data, alternative, non-alternative, all kinds of data and different methods. What is your advice for someone who is doing or trading individually, if they have to do data analysis, if they have to use these methods, how do they go about it? Because you have seen the other side. Now, what the other side, because you know what the challenges would be, because of course we all know how to be an individual trader, but yeah.
Yeah. I started doing this a long time ago, and I never worked in finance, and I never went to like a finance school. So like the people around me were kind of telling me, hey, like, come on, man, like markets are efficient. Everybody knows that, right? They gave Nobel Prizes for that stuff, right? So for many years, I actually like did apply this, like, I mean, this is also back then, I guess everyone was doing this kitchen sink approach. And if you do have a proper validation pipeline as part of that, what you can find from that is not anything good to trade, but you will find that, hey, wow, I tested a million features across, 30 years, and I found that, hey, actually these 3 features seem to somehow, I don't know what they are, or what's the, you can start thinking about that later, but they seem somehow to end up at the end of the pipeline, right? They didn't die on the way there. So there's some value if you have no idea what you're doing to that. And the other thing that I think we definitely focus on this, and I think it's kind of less of a focus in general, maybe because of this myth of like, let me press the button and it'll just go. But you can identify as a trader, or even more like as a person who understands finance, opportunities in general, and then like try to get those, right? A really stupid example that I use in these discussions all the time is, something like the 70% of the return, long return in equity indices across the globe, ex China, right, is overnight. That's something you can backtest very easily, right? And it doesn't require, you can do it on, I mean, with some caveats, you can do it on Yahoo Finance data even, right? And you can trade it in your PA, and from there, I think is where you kind of, it's a good place to start applying some sort of machine learning, right? When you already know, hey, look, there's just a general edge, or like even we've all seen these, like, what if you go randomly long stocks, right? Like there's you have to have some sort of base idea first. I think it's much more important than trying to be like, okay, here's all the data. Of course, when you do this a lot of times, you can look at an alternative data source and be like, okay, I can see that, hey, they're telling me how many trucks came to Costco, right? Oh, so I can understand, like, again, though, you're understanding from an economics perspective, right? Like, why does that matter, but in general, yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of, it's unbelievable, the reduction in price and the increase in access. Because a lot of the time in the firm, we laugh, I use like retail tools for some stuff because they've honestly just gotten to be so much better than they were, 15 years ago. And what is the point to pay, for options data? I remember I'd get quotes like, $150,000 a year, and now I could pay $200 a month for all the options data within an API. So like, I don't have to like deal with, there's like sending you flat files. It doesn't work, that you can't download them. It's yeah. So yeah.
I think that's amazing. Thank you so much. And but yeah, that's a lot of opportunity, a lot of interesting times ahead. So Mark, you are someone who has actually coming from a certain background, and you picked up on these skills and applied them, and also all the complete comprehensive understanding of your programming to data science, to applying that into the markets. So how does that journey would go for someone who is coming from a technology background or without a technology background? How would it differ, and how would a typical learning journey should be for someone who wants to understand this domain?
Yeah, so I definitely echo everyone here in terms of being able to have a structure, and I think one of the possible problems with this space is how do you enter it, and whether I think you are someone who's beginning to kind of develop these ideas, to get those fundamentals down, or someone that's experienced, that's looking to take this domain and finding out how to apply it. I think that may be, um, some of the questions that someone may be asking themselves, and I find what has helped me. I graduated from the EPAT program back in December 2020, and I'm pretty sure everyone here has remembers that year. So in that year, I wanted to stay productive. For me, one of the things I really love is just learning, and I was just fortunate enough, and if I can speak to the EPAT program here, just fortunate enough to find this program. And one of the things I can speak about is, initially when I was doing my research, I really wanted to enhance some of the things that I've already learned. And so, but not only that, I didn't have a lot of coding practice, and so I wanted to learn how to code as well. So the EPAT program, after joining, I was really blown away with the curriculum, with the access. I mean, you get to learn with top professionals with a ton of experience. And I mean, if you can imagine this panel right here, but then being able to have hours, right, of learning, and then being able to ask questions, being able to just be engaged, and then on top of that, as an alumni, being able to have that networking opportunities during and after. And I think one of the things that's really helped is not only the learning aspect, but being able to apply and put that into practice. You going in there and submitting, your assignments within these deadlines, and in addition to that, and I think you still have this here, is that you have the opportunity to pair with a mentor for a project. So not only you're taking that into the next level. So I think the other thing that I find really nice is during that year it was really tough for everyone, and I had a dedicated person, a dedicated contact that would always reach out to me and ask me how I was doing, how I was going with the program, if I had any questions, if there was anything missing. And I believe her name was Dion, and she was able to connect me one-on-one to get all my inquiries, everything taken care of. So I really felt taken care of. Everybody was really kind and supportive, and within my journey, and it's really helped me a lot. And some of the things that you probably everyone here in the audience, where you're picking up that one or two sentence line, right? It's just such a gold nugget to be able to apply in in your practice. Those are some of the things that I've taken away from each and one of those the classes in the program. So I think Stefan put up a good point. Dabbling in the process, creating some sort of knowledge in there. So I think the program not only caters to someone who is experienced in that space already and looking to apply and looking to enhance their learning and put it into practice, but someone who's also beginning in this space, someone who's looking to learn and looking to begin and really extra curious about how to apply everything. So And after the EPAT program, that's a kind of almost like where the fun begins as well, because you take all this information. It's fast, and it's a quite an extensive program. There's just so much information, so it's like you know, you just have this information, but after, you know, you get the chance to really play around and practice everything there. And for everyone that's kind of aspiring to enter into this space, there's this book. It's by James Clear. It's Atomic Habits, and just talks about building a system to have successful habits. And one of the things that they talk about, was a study about a classroom, and they divided this classroom into two, divided it in half, and they asked one half to make one, it was a photography class. So they asked one class to take one picture. Their assignment was to take one picture, and they were graded on the quality of the photograph, just one for an entire month. And then the other half was tasked to take a ton of pictures. So they were graded not on the quality of that one photograph, but they were graded on the quantity of the photographs that they were able to output. And then at the end of the month, they would judge which side, you know, had, or they would basically pick out the best quality photograph. And the question is which side do you think, you know, that quality photograph came from? And so normally we would gravitate towards maybe choosing this side that had the entire month to produce this one photograph, right? But contrary to that belief, it was the side that made a ton of pictures that were graded on the quantity versus the quality. So I thought that was very insightful, because it goes to show that, hey, you know what? Sometimes we get this analysis paralysis when we're weighing things and we're developing something, and, you know, extravagant or whatnot, or trying to make it more complicated than what it is. And I think one of the things I remember, you know, Dr. Chan, you mentioned this in the EPAT program, you know, this starting simple, right? Starting simple. And just diving in there and going in. So I think that story, that insight there is very insightful to me. And I just I think that's my recommendation, is that if you're thinking about it, it's all about putting it into practice. You know, it's all about making mistakes. It's going in there and learning, and because mistakes is part of the program, but it's part of the learning process. Yeah. And I think the program is just you know, it's great because it allows you to be able to learn from professionals who have practices, who have these, but for an extremely long time, or professionals, authors that have already made these fundamental mistakes that can then teach you to, you know, these small little things to look out for. So so that's been, you know, my journey, you know, from not learning, or from not knowing how to code to kind of graduating the EPAT program and just taking in everything and applying everything. And it's just been truly an amazing experience. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me and learning. And I'm still connected, you know, with EPAT, because as an alumni, right, you have access to everything and everyone. So, but yeah, that's my, you know, that's what I think would help.
Yeah.
Is finding something that, you know, education and applying and going in and making those mistakes.
I think that what you mentioned about having it, you know, a structured way approach, and also then trying to just do it, right? Go and do things, try things out, and then obviously you'll make mistakes, but you'll also learn from that. And then that example that you took from Atomic Habits, that's really really great. So thank you, Mark, for sharing that. So so the question now is about what do you expect, like in 5 years from now, what is the expectation is going to be the market? So Dr. Chan, I'll start with you. What do you think it's going to be in 5 years from now? What will be the state of the financial markets, and what role AI or ML would be playing in it, say GPT-15 or whatever it is that at that point of time, or maybe something entirely different. So what's your visualization, or what do you think on that?
Yeah, I
You
think.
know,
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Dr. Chen.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yeah, no, I was thinking that, I think at that point, the ChatGPT and related GPT technology will probably be advanced to a state where discretionary trading might be more profitable by the agent. That's my guess in 5 to 10 years.
Very interesting. Okay, that's definitely very different from what I was thinking. So that's very marvelous, very interesting. But how about you?
Do you mean, sorry, do you mean discretionary trading like with the help of a GPT or what?
Well, the large language model generating a sentiment on a traded instrument, could be stock, could be future, and being able to correctly judge the sentiment better so that it has a high correlation with the return.
Okay.
So taking into account basically non technical information to the extent that it can make a good decision, like what the famous discretionary traders today make. I think
I
that
heard all of them were just a random draw.
right now, maybe in 5 years it won't be.
But it's funny that you say that actually, because one of my pet projects right now is, you know, before obviously training your own models, you can figure out exactly what goes on, and that's a lot of work, right? Like, you got to learn a lot of stuff. So, I just hooked up like the Twitter feed, right, of whatever. I don't really do Twitter too much, but I got the feed of what I think is, important for my markets, and just see, the different interpretations of the different models, right? Just to have it, right? Not to do anything yet with it, because you don't know what the underlying training mechanism was, specifically what the data was. So you don't want to have, weird things where you're, snooping in the future somehow. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you how that goes. And then, sorry, you asked me a question, Nitesh. What was it?
No, so just saying that what does the future looks like to you? So if we were all some soothsayers, or able to see the exact future in front of us, what do we imagine that how it would be 5 years, 10 years from now?
You smile, because if you look at the returns of a HFT firm, right, then that's what you're going to think, right? These guys can predict the future, right?
True.
It's I think it's going to be a disappointing answer, but it's going to be more or less the same, I think, right? I think that somehow, the stuff that we trade, right? I mean, it makes no sense. Like, it's much more simple than any of the stuff we're discussing here, right? It's just we use machine learning to like juice it, you know.
Hmm.
I don't, while I started my career in kind of like a pure, like, okay, I don't know shit, let me use the technology to make me smart. And then you figure out that, like, actually you need to know like 5 things, and then you throw the technology away if you want, but if you want to use it and you like to tinker around and make it, you can get more juice. Of course, there's markets that you can't, if you want to trade, I don't know, what's an efficient market, I would think, like, I guess relatively efficient could be maybe like, Euro dollars, like that could be relatively efficient, right? That's going to be hard without some sort of tech. But yeah, I mean, because new markets come out, right? I mean, crypto is a really good example. I hate to use it as an example, but like, if when we started trading, right, which was in crypto like 2017, like, we were seeing, I mean, shit, what we, you could see last, like, 2 days ago on BIMX, which you had prices $2,000, $8,000 Bitcoin. what are we talking about then? You know, so
Fun,
that's
but
going to continue happening, right? And as things get more like digitalized, let's call it, you know, I don't want to use the word, but you know, you're going to tokenize more things, right? What is the success of the student in the future, the you know, the politician, everything will be, you know, going that way. Then you'll have more theoretical, you know, markets, I don't know,
interesting.
and then you would have more inefficient. In fact, yeah, it might get worse. I mean, better for all of us, but worse
Yes,
from an
so
efficiency
much,
perspective.
much markets even more inefficient. Okay, interesting. That would be love to see that. Stefan, would like to add something on this? Like, we'll just start taking questions now, I think, but before that, you would like to add anything on this?
Of course, I mean, predicting the future's 5 year on, nothing easier than that, right? So, I
True.
mean, lots of pieces to this, right? So when it comes to the underlying technologies, so the GPT type style models, fundamental models, and so forth, or foundation models, I think I take a very humble view. I have really no idea where this is going. It's not super encouraging. The gradient of improvement from, you know, the sort of ChatGPT release to kind of the latest Claude and the like hasn't been particularly steep, right? So I think it is entirely possible that we're already close to a plateau, as some people think, right? Even like Chris Manning, like head of NLP lab at Stanford, leading figure in the field, you know, is rather on the skeptical side that for the next few years, maybe we don't see that much improvement in the underlying technology, right? But that can also be different. We'll see what happens later this year, you know, and it's anybody's guess. Now, what is fairly certain though is that the usability of this technology is going to increase dramatically. Just like, and so one thing I'm pretty certain about is that machine learning, generally speaking, you know, besides the ChatGPT type of application, is going to be viewed more and more like a tool that you use, just like Excel at some point became like a standard thing, you know, and lost the magic that people maybe experienced when it first emerged. You know, so as you look at the trading process, you know, one of the reasons to encourage people to actually practice this is that this idea that, oh, as I just need to predict the returns and I'm done here, you know, couldn't be further from the truth. You know, you have to enter, you have to exit, you have to execute the orders. There's so many different things that you have to do in this process, where knowing or just having an inkling of where the assets might go over some short period really is a small piece. But all these different parts of the process are amenable to using machine learning. And so machine learning, because it becomes more of a tool, it will become more demystified, you know, more people will have a conceptual and a practical understanding of it. So it will start to permeate more and more processes and just be useful to, you know, as we said several times here, you know, to make some of the human work more productive, you know, across all fronts. It's on some fronts it will be easier, on some it will be harder, but that is something, it will just become less considered as AI. Just like all the things, you know, they always say AI is kind of only the stuff that you haven't solved yet. As soon as you solve the problem, it ceases being AI, right? So some of that process will probably continue. That has been a constant for a long time. So we'll be using more of this happily. But what really happens, whether you're on the straight path to AGI from here or not, we'll live to see, hopefully.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. It was really wonderful discussing this topic with all of you, and some really great insights. Thank you everyone for sharing that. Before we end, I'll take a few questions from the audience. There are quite a few, but I think I try to take a few which has been
We'll now start off with the Q&A. So while Nitesh is shortlisting some of the questions, I just chip in, and as you can see, registrants of this workshop can avail this substantial discount on upcoming batch of EPAC. So you can avail 50% discount on the executive program in algorithmic trading. And I guess I'm getting a lot of comments related to the program, and we may not be able to pick those questions here. We'll keep the session more towards the topic that we have. But please make sure that you are connecting with the course counselors in case you are interested. I have shared the link. And Yeah, I think Nitesh, I have flagged some of the questions. You can
Sure, sure. I'll check on that. And also, I think there's a few questions which are targeted towards some of the for after the session kind of connect. So we will definitely share those questions with the respective panel members here, and we'll cover that as well. So in addition to whatever Kshitij mentioned, and an interesting question that I see over here is by Avi that how does the ML and AI is expected to change, like reduce or increase the average trading cycle. So average trading cycle, or probably I'm assuming that it would be more around the holding period probably. So the holding period for the trades, do you expect it to increase, go down? So I think average has to be everywhere from the fund managers to the HFT traders, I guess. So Bert, you would like to take that?
I can have a, I mean, it depends on what you think about the efficiency discussion we just had, right? Like, I mean, in a perfectly efficient market, theoretically, right? It's hard, in an idealized world, right? Maybe this isn't true in our, in a stochastic, environment, but your price is X, right? Then you have information, then your price is now repriced instantly, right? So theoretically, if you think it gets more efficient, I would say holding periods increase, right? Correct, or decrease? Decrease, right? Because you wanna just get the move. So I mean, I guess you're expecting. It depends if you're predicting the information or not, right?
Okay, cool. I have another interesting question, a very broad one, but very pointed. That is, which is the best machine learning algo to use for financial market trading? So I think that's right up there for the holy grail. So Dr. Chan, you have any suggestions? Or?
Well, I think that if we are talking about the application, the boring applications that we advocate, right? So it's mainly supervised learning that we use, and and also in financial data, a lot of these data are what we call heterogeneous data or tabular data. So unlike speech data or text data, tree-based algorithms are much better than neural networks so far in terms of this for that kind of data. And also because there are in finance there are a lot of features that are quite useless for a particular trading strategy. If you might think that oil price might be useful for a certain strategy, but it might be completely useless for others. So tree-based algorithm has an inherent feature selection that's going on that limit the number of features going into the final model. So yeah, if you ask me, offhand, what's the best trading algorithm, whatever, whether for international or particular U.S. market or whatnot. It's always gradient boosted decision tree or random forest. That's the good old standby.
Cool. Okay. Interesting. Great. Thanks, Dr. Chan. Another, I think there's really a question which is also close to my heart in terms of managing risks and how that will evolve, because running business, both trading and other businesses have told us one thing, that the best way and the most consistent way to make money is managing your risk in the best possible way. So I think that's what has really helped. So there is a question about, will we see more black swan events with increasing use of AI and ML? How do we manage the risk in such question? Viren asks. So Stefan and Mark, would you like to take that?
I mean, it depends on. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was just going to say that I mean, it depends on what you consider a black swan event. I mean, to the extent that there's sort of external things, or not just a flash crash, then that's a little not necessarily directly related to AI or ML. Of course, ML might be good at reacting appropriately to this. If the model is able to incorporate this information, given the short history on these events, given the rarity, that's that's challenging. Now, of course, you might be alluding to the idea that by having more automated traders in the market, that you get more of these flash crashes. Kind of interpreting the question liberally, and there clearly is a risk, right? But I think these are all open questions, right? Because ultimately, this is a very dynamic environment. Everybody's trying to anticipate these things and building models to anticipate these things, and how this interaction will play out, I think we simply don't know, you know. But it's clearly a risk that hasn't been there before. So in that sense, it's a greater risk. But you know, what actually will happen as a result of this? You know, are we actually going to be simply in a much more efficient market where sort of things just adapt much more quickly to reality, and we don't have large deviations, you know, mispricings, because you know, whatever trends are being pursued in the wrong direction by machines that don't understand this, you know. So I think there are different scenarios that could appear. I have, you know, I watch this carefully, I'd say, without having a firm opinion on how this will play out.
Okay, cool. So Mark, you would like to add on that?
No, I couldn't hear the question, so.
So the question.
So apologies on that.
Yeah, sure. So the question was about how to manage the risks for such events, black swan events that might come with the rise of AI and ML. So first question was that whether it can come, or second was how to manage those risks.
Whether it can come, I think, you know, historically speaking, we've seen, you know, these type of events before, and I think I echo that. You know, there's always questions about, you know, if things are going to happen in the future, and and whatnot, and always my default answer, and I echo your answer as well here, is that we simply don't know. We're just we are not exactly sure what's going to happen in the future, and I think you know, part of you know, this domain is to provide probabilities and provide certain also probabilities in case of that event. And what I think is a good application is being able to react quickly. I think, you know, with these applications here, as opposed to.
Yeah, even that, and as Dr. Chan initially mentioned, also the first use case that happened was in the portfolio management and the risk management side, boring work, but the most important work as well. So I think that's where probably we are headed. So yeah, so that's true. Thank you so much, Mark. Great. I think we have quite a few questions, but I think we are already overshot our time already a few minutes. So we'll probably close here the Q&A part, and for those who have already posted their questions, please be assured that we will be connecting and ensuring that your questions are being addressed. And those who wish to connect with us, please do connect later on as well. We will be glad to connect and address any of the questions or queries that you might have about this domain. There's a domain which is close to the heart. There's something which is extremely relevant for us in the coming future. So wherever we can work towards that for the community, I think that's something which is which we believe is really important, and we are definitely there for that. Great. So thanks everyone. Thanks all the audience who tuned in today. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you all the panelists, Bert, Dr. Chan, Mark, and Stefan. Thank you for joining us. It was really a pleasure. I learned a few more things, and I wish we could have continued even more, but I really hope that we will have that dialogue ongoing through different channels later on with you, and we would definitely look forward to that. So thank you, and thanks everyone, and have a great evening, afternoon, day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
me. Thank you, Nitesh, and thank you to all the panelists. And
everybody.
To our audience, I would like to share that our next session on ChatGPT and algo trading, exploring opportunities and challenges, will start in around the next 20 minutes. So we'll be discussing how advanced language models like ChatGPT can enhance a trader's workflow, and we'll be highlighting the opportunities and challenges. So I'll see you in the next session in the next 20 minutes. Cheers. Thank you, everyone.